Now, it was right about in this moment that I realized maybe this wasn't the greatest idea. And not building the teardrop, that still seemed like an okay idea, but flipping this trailer over alone, maybe not the smartest move. So, let's talk about how we got here. Well, I guess that makes this day one. Trailer parts just got delivered. Let's put them in the garage and deal with it later. So, for anyone that doesn't know me that's watching, my name's Cayley. I've never built a teardrop before. We're just going to start with putting all the parts in the garage, giving a nice thumbs up to the camera because I don't know what I'm doing, and go from there. Now, the tire showed up a couple days after the trailer, so now it's time to actually get the build started. I think this whole process of building a trailer base is holistically going to be very boring. I mean, I hope my sparkling personality really brings enough to make this worth watching, but I won't be offended if watching someone bolt together a trailer just turns out isn't for you. But right now, what I'm doing is the trailer base kit I bought came with hubs attached to the wheels, but the teardrop plans recommend tossing on larger wheels with some spacers, so that's where we'll start. These are the wheels we started with, nice little 13-inch ones, and upgraded these quite a bit bigger 15-inch. And now it's time to figure out, can I actually build this thing in the garage? It's a pretty tight one-car garage from like a 1950s house, so it's pretty darn small, but it's a 5x8 trailer, so all things considered, it should fit in the space, but we're just gonna go ahead and see. Now, through this whole base build process, you'll see me spending what feels like an obnoxious amount of time reading these instructions for the trailer base. They aren't the instructions for the teardrop build, we're not there just yet, but those instructions are from Wander Tears, and we're specifically building their Vega model. They have some pretty great resources and split their plans into a ton of different phases. Here, we're really just trying to cover phase 1, getting a trailer frame base to start building things on. And those instructions for the trailer base, well, they've not been my favorite. Around this point in time is when I realized that the instructions felt so bad because they had inadvertently sent me nearly double the trailer parts. So that's driven a lot of staring, pointing, and counting to try to figure out how all of this is supposed to go together. And apparently the answer is it all doesn't. The Wander Tier plans call for shifting the axle aft about 4 to 7 inches, and don't worry, I googled it. Aft just means you have to move it backwards 4 to 6 inches. This, when it's all said and done, should improve the weight distribution of the trailer when there's actual weight of the teardrop on top of it. Now, I'm really not much of a metal worker, so getting these holes that I had to drill in the axle hangers actually into that steel was a pretty painful process. But with some WD-40 and some actual metal drill bits, it went okay. And now we're looking to do pretty much the same thing on the frame, just drilling some bolt holes to shift those brackets backwards towards what's going to be the galley of the trailer, and then we'll get the axle hung. Now we're just gonna rinse and repeat what we did on that right side for the left side of the trailer. Meaning we're just gonna use those same measurements from the right side and transfer them over to the left side. But that might be slightly problematic. Let's see. So we drilled based off the other side, but I don't know if you can tell here, my hole is definitely not lining up here, so we're gonna have to fix that. Alright, my camera died, but you didn't really miss much. Ended up finishing bolting up the frame, which took a little persuading to get square. Hung both the leaf springs, and then, you know, I'm calling it a night, but the axle does span over them, so we haven't messed up terribly yet. So what better way to start day 4 than with more instruction reading and more sorting through the somewhat random seeming parts that I was sent with this trailer and a half, I guess is what we'll call it. But so right now we're just trying to actually attach that axle to the leaf springs with the hangers, and then we can hopefully get the tires on and get this thing ready to flip over and move on to the next phase. And it's probably pretty funny that I just mentioned flipping over this thing, because as I'm looking at it, it feels a lot bigger than I thought it would. And here I am realizing we're not going to be able to flip this in the garage, so that's a problem for a later date. We'll just get everything else assembled upside down and, you know, like everything else, figure it out when we get there. So, you remember how I had a lot of parts just sitting around that were extra? Well, that didn't really bother me until this happened. And, you know, if you're looking for something to humble yourself, may I suggest recording yourself doing anything. There's nothing quite like being embarrassed in the moment, but then also reliving it. Video editing, it's truly top-notch. But now that we've successfully excavated the tongue pieces from the pile of trailer parts, there's nothing left but bolt them together and get them onto the frame, which sounds pretty easy, right? Wrong. It was not easy, and nothing's really been easy about this trailer. A lot of things haven't been either square or precisely machined, which I think isn't exactly unexpected with a budget-friendly bolt-together trailer, but certainly has not been my favorite part of the build. Okay, so the problem is, the directions say, or make these pieces look symmetric, and they're not. So there's different holes drilled on the top here versus the bottom here, or at least the parts I got aren't symmetric. So what we're gonna do is these two front pieces we will flip, and then just get this drilled on. I think I have to drill a new hole in these set of pieces though, so let's do it. I just realized these directions suck. So now it's just a matter of getting those pieces unbolted, debolted, getting those bolts removed from the pieces and flipping things over. It turns out that I was able to just flip the front piece to get the bolt holes we needed on the correct side of things to mount the tongue, and didn't actually need to remove the bolts from that second piece like I thought I would. With the mounting holes on the right side of things, it's time to persuade this frame into some semblance of square in attempts to line up some of these bolt holes now that they're on the right side. So just trying to get everything kind of mounted and aligned and put some clamps on to really pull and push that frame where it needs to go. Oh, and a hammer and mallet. If all else fails, bang on it, I guess. And hey, it looks like the stars finally aligned. If the stars are the bolt holes that have driven me nuts for the past, I don't know, 3 days of this project. So now with that mounted, it's really time to just kind of get all the bolts where they need to go and start looking towards getting the tires on. And we're getting really close to finishing this out. I thought I didn't have the cotter pin, that's what this is, but I guess it was in here. Got a lot of stuff that I don't know what it is, but there's grease in it. So that looks good to me. Let's consult the instructions. So I know I've shot myself in the foot before on this project saying, ooh, wow, that'll totally be easy. But this mounting the tire on the axle was actually easy. There's just one, I think it's called a castle nut, that you have to tighten onto the hub, and that pretty much seats the tire onto the axle. So after a quick shake test, I think we're gonna call it mounted. Okay, so I can't actually get the cotter pin to seat inside the hub with the wheel on. I think it's just a different wheel than comes with the kit. So we're gonna take the spacer off, pop the cap off, install it, and then install the wheel back on the spacer. Okay, so maybe I didn't shoot myself in the foot, but like lightly grazed it. I kind of forgot that we had to take this spacer off to kind of fully seat everything, or take the wheel off from the spacer. So here we are, just prying that hubcap off to get the cotter pin out. A lot easier to do while it's on a wheel, and a lot easier if you don't drop the dang thing in the grease and have to go fish it out. So mounting it on without the tire on there, and then we'll get the tire back on there and call it good. You know, it's not syncing up as close to the frame, so I'll show you in a second. There's a slight gap in the axle. I'm wondering if I should rehang the other one that came with it, or if we, you know, there's no wiggle in this part of it, so it feels like it's seated as it can get. But I am a little worried about it. We'll see. This is about a 2-inch gap. We'll see how gapped that one is over there once I get this wheel on. Okay, so the gap I was talking about is right here. So as I block all the light, it's right here. So on the other side, this is butted up right against this bearing, and for some reason there's this, I don't know, 1/2-inch gap. It was as far as I could get this to seat on the bearing, so I'm hoping it's not a big deal, but, you know, I don't know, we'll see. So we'll move on and deal with it later. And after 6 days, it's time to try to flip this thing, which brings us full circle to where we started this video. First step's really just going to be getting it out of the garage. I was a little worried about having to just carry it, but you know, the wheels are doing their thing and we can kind of just push it into the driveway after clearing out a few things. And I kind of thought, like, right, I've flipped a tire before. I could probably flip a trailer, which is maybe the most delusional thought I've had in a hot minute. But, you know, setting up some wooden blocks so if I actually do flip it, the tires kind of stick there and don't roll backwards. And like I said previously, getting to about here is where I realized I don't think this is gonna happen. So we're gonna need to figure something else out. It's not gonna work. Hey, what are you doing? So I kind of thought I might be able to tire flip this thing by myself. I think I'm gonna have to. Okay, yeah, take your time. It's just sitting there, right? So, cool. Okay, bye. Sweet, Josh is gonna come. So, here is Josh. Josh is many things, but today he is strong friend. It's really important to have those people that you can just call in life and say, hey, I'm trying to flip over a trailer by myself. Can you come help me not have to do that by myself? So definitely much easier with a second pair of hands. And, you know, it wasn't actually all that bad. I probably could have done it by myself had I tried. But things are better with a friend. Things are easier with a friend. So. So with the trailer flipped over, there's not a whole lot left really to kind of close out this phase of the build. Right now it's mounting the remainder of the hitch components onto that tongue box, as well as installing this trailer jack that sits in the front. That'll ideally help level things out and make it easier to mount to a ball hitch. So with that mounted, we can kind of pop those F-style clamps off and get this trailer sitting a little bit more level. Now, this trailer is really intended to be a utility trailer, so it comes with all the electrical components needed to make it road legal. The Wander Tier plans call for a bit of a different lighting schematic, but I drive a Subaru, so this project needs a lot of plywood, and I don't have a way to transport that at all. So I'm going to go ahead and mount all the lights and get all the electrical figured out so I can use this trailer to haul materials needed for the project while I have it. And we'll kind of just kick the can later down the road and see if we can use these lights later on since we already have them. Well, with the lights mounted, there's nothing left to do but kind of get it on the Subaru and do a quick check. And we're going to call phase 1 done. And on to phase 2. So we did it. I'm really glad that's over with. I will link the plans for the trailer base, so that Ironton trailer that I've been bolting together, as well as the Wander Tears Vega model plans, or at least to their website if I can figure that out, in the description. And yeah, it's time to move on to phase 2, which is going to be building a floor on the trailer base, and then hopefully things start rolling a lot faster, and you know, we can get this done sometime this year, I'm hoping. So fingers crossed. I hope I didn't just shoot myself in the foot, and we'll just see how it goes.